Hi guys. Okay, so happy Friday. Here's the quiz review. For those of you that have been to class and have heard me say this, this is a repeat, but there's a lot of you who haven't. So this quiz review is going to be really comprehensive, not long, but it will definitely prepare you for the quiz on Monday. So all that's going to change, right, for the most part, okay, not exactly, but for the most part, all that's going to change is going to be your data set that you're given. You're still going to be required to understand all of these questions. And if you follow along here and print this out and fill it out as we go, feel free to use it on the quiz. If you missed the first quiz, the quiz on Monday will count double. So if you get a B on the quiz on Monday, you will get a B and a B for both quizzes. Okay. All right, so this is going to be a little bit close to home for those people in period 4. So here's a list of the chapter 1 quiz 1 percentages, right, from the quiz we just took in my stats class, period 4, 2020. And below you'll find questions about the data. Answer the questions in the context of the problem, right? As always, context is huge in stats, and show all work to receive full credit. Okay, so the idea of stats is that given a list of data, that doesn't really show us much, right? If you know these are percents, some things might jump out to you like, whoa, what's up with the 105? Well, I did curve this test. I curved it by 8 percentage points because there was a couple 92s and then there was one random higher score. So that student did exceptionally well. And so they get over 100% on the quiz. Okay. All right, so let's go through the data and walk through what you are expected to be able to do. So taking this data, enter it into the online calculator, look over the histogram that's provided, and describe, right? You do not have an option. Those of you who just decided to write random sentences on the first quiz and did not follow your acronym, right? You don't have to actually outline it, but you have to cover shape, outliers, center, and spread. You did not do well. So those of you who have done this before, it should not be new. Okay, so check it out. So if I go to the Schoology website, and I click on your classroom documents and links, you can click on the online stats calculator and it will be embedded inside of Schoology. It'll pop up here. Now, if you want it as a standalone website, which I probably recommend doing, it just lets you see everything a little bit easier. There's a small a small box in the corner right up here with an arrow. And if you hit that, it will open a separate website. Okay. For sake of time, I have already entered our data in the observations. When you do this, right, you hit calculate, and then look, it tells you there's 25 observations. So you would always want to check that that's correct. And that is correct. That's how many quiz scores. So we've got our histogram here. It tells you there's one score between the values of 0 and 20, right, which is clearly a not good grade, an F. There's another score between 20 and 40, a couple between 40 and 60, and then quite a few between 60 and 80, right? And then quite a few as well between 80 and 100. And then right here, there are two measurements that are bigger than 100, right? Because this only goes up to 100 but not includes it. So these two values would be over here. So visually, if you draw a smooth curve over this data, to me, this thing looks a little bit slightly skewed left, right? You've got a few measurements out here with the majority to the right. And so when you describe the first S in your acronym, which stands for shape, so our acronym is SOCS, the first S is for shape. You guys want to contextualize your response. So you would say the distribution of quiz 1 scores for Mr. Carpenter's class is, and we're going to call it slightly skewed, SKEWED, sorry about that, left. Okay, and again, right, it's not enough. If you're wondering why you missed points on the quiz and you just wrote skewed left, it's because that's not enough, right? You're supposed to be able to write a full sentence, right, in the context of the problem, context being quiz 1 scores from Mr. Carpenter's class. Okay, the second part of your acronym is O for outliers. And what you're supposed to do here, right, you're not necessarily supposed to be able to know with certainty, right? That's down below. What you're supposed to do is look at it and say, I don't know, there's no gaps in the data, so I'm going to say that there don't appear to be any outliers, right? It's not about whether you're correct. It's about whether you address the fact that you look for them. That's very different. So I would say there does not appear to be any outliers in the distribution. Right? You need to address outliers. Next one is C for center. There are two measurements of center that you are expected to report. Okay, this is the quiz review. And so watching it, you now know that that's what I expect on the quiz. Okay, so you must report both the mean and the median. All of that data, if you go back to your online stats calculator, that is given to you right here. The median is 76. Down below, the sample mean is 74.24. Okay, so I'm going to write that down and then I'll scroll back to the page. So I'm going to say the median of the data is 76, and I'm going to add some context. So I'm going to put percent, and the mean is 74.2%. Okay, so I will show you what I wrote. Again, I want to be very straightforward because I deal with a lot of emails and frustrated students afterwards. I try to be as clear as I can. If you guys aren't watching these quiz reviews, I can't help you, right? We are in a distance learning situation where the expectation is you guys are watching the material that I provide. So for center, I need the median and the mean reported, okay? And that's just given to you from the website. All right, then we have SOCS. Our last one is for spread. Okay, and spread is talking about what's up with the data, like how spread out is it? Well, what do we use to discuss spread? We have talked about an easy measurement of spread is the range. And you can see right here, the maximum value given is 105, and the minimum value is given as 16. Okay, so you have 105 and 16. And so you would say the range of the quiz scores, context, right, is, and then show me, it's 105 minus 16, which would be 89. Okay, and so you're given a statistical value for range, and range is a measure of spread. Okay, now on the quiz, every time you describe something, you get 2 points for each SOCS, which is a total of 8-point question, right? 1 for just saying skewed left, which some of you did, you got a point. But you don't get the second point unless you contextualize it. Okay. All right. By this time, hopefully you've watched the other lessons and or the examples that I posted on YouTube that you can watch at any point. They're good classroom examples. I'm going to go ahead and list the 5-number summary and the IQR to begin with. So I'm going to go back to my calculator. And right here, minimum 25th percentile is quartile 1. Median is 76. Quartile 3 is 75th percentile. Ignore the IQR for now, and then report the maximum. So I'm going to write those down on my paper, and I'll scroll back as usual. So I have my min value, which is 16. So min is 16. Quartile 1 is 69. The median value is 76. Quartile 3 is 15. A max value of 105. And then I'm also going to report my IQR, which stands for interquartile range, as 15. And again, you get 15 because IQR by definition is quartile 3, 84, minus quartile 1, 69, for a value of 15. Okay, so this is how I have written it on my quiz review. My 5-number summary is right here. IQR is separate, but you need that in order to check for outliers. Okay, so we are going to check for what's called a high outlier, right? As far as on the high end of the data. And the way that you do that is you do quartile 3 plus 1.5 times IQR. Well, that's equal to 15. That is not right. Let's go back. I wrote the wrong thing here. Quartile 3 is 84. So let me fix that. I wrote down the IQR. So this is 84. Okay, so quartile 3 would be 84 plus 1.5 times the IQR, which is 15. And so I grab my calculator. I go to 84 plus 1.5 times the IQR of 15, and that's equal to 106.5. And what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to check in my data, are there any data values above 106.5? Well, you could either come back up here and look through, no, or you could look over here and it simply tells you the max is 105, so that's not an outlier. So you would say no high outlier. Okay, now we need to check outliers on the low end, low outlier. And to do that, you do quartile 1 and you subtract 1.5 times the IQR, which is 69, minus 1.5 times the IQR again, which is 15. And so our low boundary would be 69 minus 1.5 times 15, and you get 46.5. So what does that mean? If there is any data below 46.5%, those would be considered outliers. Well, if our minimum's 16, we better go check. So anything below 46.5, that is less than 46.5. That is less than 46.5. And those are the only two. Okay, so what do you say? You say 2 low outliers. And tell me what they are. 16 and 37. Okay, now we have an official way to check for outliers mathematically. Okay, on question 3, it says find the mean and the median. We've already done that. What do these two statistics tell you about the shape of the distribution? Right, and so does this match your answer in number 1? So let's just take this step by step. Find the mean and the median. So we're going to say the mean was equal to 74.2%, and the median was equal to 76%. What is your analysis of this? We'll compare them. The mean is slightly less than the median. So we would say the mean is slightly less than the median, which, right, tells us something, which leads me to believe the data is slightly skewed. If the mean is smaller, that means it's slightly skewed left. Okay? Again, this is in the lesson, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to go watch them. If you have a slightly skewed left data, the tail, right, will pull the mean towards it. And so if the mean is less than the median, that means that there must have been some tail going to the left, which describes a left skewed data. Okay? Remember, if you have symmetric data, the mean and the median are about the same. And so these aren't off by a bunch, right? But a couple percent. So you just say it seems like it's slightly skewed to the left. Well, then look, how does this match your answer in question 1? You need to answer that. We'll go back up to 1. Shape. The distribution of quiz 1 scores from Mr. Carpenter's class is slightly skewed left. So you say this matches my answer to number 1. Okay. All right. Number 4, I'll do this and then I'll just quickly give a summary and we should be good. So find the standard deviation of the distribution and describe in context. Okay, so first report the standard deviation. When you report standard deviation, it's S sub x. And if you go back to your data, you don't have to find it by hand. Scroll down. Our sample standard deviation right here, okay, is 5.0. Let's round it to 7. So 5.07. Okay. And so when we go back, we would say it's equal to 5.07. Oops, 06, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to mark you off for decimals. Okay. All right. So we have our sample standard deviation. You guys are supposed to memorize / write this down, have this available for you so that you can practice writing out a sentence about what that means. So what you write is we can expect, right, the data to, I'm going to use the word deviate, right? Standard deviation. So to deviate, which is fancy for to, be off by or different from by about. So we can expect the data to deviate from the average quiz score of, remember, our average was 74.2%, by, there's your standard deviation, 5.06% on average. Part of statistics, right? That's a hard sentence. So this is a quiz. We're just practicing it. You writing that down right now, you copying that down on the next quiz in the context of the problem will help you learn what it actually means. It's saying that, look, if your average, right, quiz score is 74, we can expect to be off of that by around 5%. That means, right, that the data is going to be really close to 74, just plus or minus 5% on average. As the standard deviation gets really big, if that was like 20%, you would expect some really, really high scores and some really low scores. But on average, right, our data will deviate from the average quiz score by around 5%. Okay? All right, so again, what am I looking for this quiz? Well, first of all, I'm looking for all the people who got zeros to take it so that they can get a replacement grade and not be failing my class, because I don't want you guys to fail, okay? And so overall, look at what you guys are able to do. This is applied mathematics. You guys are given real life data. You guys just did this last week, right? Period 4 students took a quiz. And what happened? Well, we don't know by looking at that. But now we know that it's slightly skewed to the left. Doesn't look like there's any outliers, but later on we found there were. The center, right, tells us about on average how kids did. And the range of scores, right? Nobody got a 0, but some people did get 100. So they were all over the place. Okay. This was an official way for you to say, look, these 2 students performed extremely low compared to the rest of the class, right? So in statistic, that means something, right? Either they didn't study, or maybe something went wrong with their computer, or they did the wrong question, or they, who knows? But those are data points that are significantly, literally different from the majority of the data, and we would call them outliers. Okay. Then down here, we rediscuss the relationship between mean and median and what that does to the shape. And then just saying, look, yeah, I know the average was around 74, and most people were right around that by around 5%. Okay, so Mr. Carpenter now knows the majority of his kids on average got a C, and, right around in the C level. Okay, hopefully that helps. When you guys log in on Monday, expect to do this. Okay, I really don't want any excuses on, I didn't know what to do. This is straightforward. I'm really trying to prep you guys so that you can fill something out and feel good about your knowledge in the chapter so far. Okay, have a great Friday. Get everything done. Wake up Monday, have some food, and take your quiz, and best of luck, you guys.